By Neha Rampogu. I am Senor Miller, Spanish teacher here. And I would say this, if you are ever walking around campus and you hear somebody laughing or people talking, it is generally assumed that Neha will be there in the middle of that something. She has a pleasantness and an exuberance for life that is catching. And I enjoyed having her in my class and having her in my chapel group, hearing her sing. And I also loved having her in class, hearing her talk, most times in Spanish. And she is the kind of person that grows on you and I think exemplifies in many ways the kind of student that we hope to see in many of our students. And so Neha, I wish you the best, and I want you to go with boldness and confidence in this next journey of your life.
Thank you, Senor, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. 4 years ago, I was not the same person who stands here today. 4 years ago, I had the same eyes. I had the same smile. I used to think I see things more clear, say things differently, and speak with a stronger voice. Let me elaborate for you. High school changes you. It changes your friends, it changes your style, and it changes your thinking, whether you like it or not. It can change you through easy steps or through a more difficult way, and I was spared from either. Change? I've always been indifferent about change. I am neither terrified nor excited for change. It just depends. Change was neither a friend nor a foe, but it was always showing up unwelcomed, entering my first year of high school. Freshman year, I was excited to feel like an adult as a freshman could feel. I was overconfident, coming from Penn View, and eager. Adult at this time meant I didn't have to report to a homeroom class in the morning, and that my classmates didn't have to form a single file line to travel to the library. I remember my biggest worries the first day of high school being what I would wear and whether I would carry a purse or a backpack. At the freshman retreat was when I noticed Penn View was like a cult. But we were all new kids, the same as everyone else, and we were all on the same pool trying to make friends. Socially, this year was awkward. New people, new campus, new lifestyles to adjust to. There was never a dull moment because I never got tired of feeling so adult. I was already trying my hardest to excel, and this included keeping my grades up. Academically, this year was different than middle school days, but not challenging. A subject that really pushed in my grades, though, was biology. Biology was my first high school level family class that I had. There was a huge project assigned in this class where you and another person picked a topic, made a poster, and taught the class. Julia Alderfer and I were partners, which was perfect until we actually had to do the project. Our topic was birds, and we were more than ready to start the night before it was due. We prepped ourselves really well. We took showers, we did our hair, we made brownies, and we took pictures until 9 o'clock. I quickly learned that night that I couldn't be silly about getting my work done, or else it would pile up all too quickly and become stressful. With difficult classes came enjoyable ones. I loved Algebra 1, English, and Crowd. I probably liked numbers more than people freshman year. Their value always remained the same, and I had an infinite amount of them. I loved books, so it was nice having one to always read in English class, but Crowd was the most fun class all year. In this class, I was able to cross off one goal, get a solo, check. After Crowd, I knew I wanted to try out for touring choir. My oldest brother, Shep, had done it, and I wanted to do it as well. Mr. Durstein always picks out the best songs, and still does for choir. I was easily making friends with people in my classes and outside of classes too. After every school day, I'd take a 45-minute bus ride back home, and this would have been torturous if I didn't have friends on my bus. There was always a regular group of kids that took the bus every day. Felicia Garris, one of the funniest chicks you'll ever meet, Melissa Berry, who was surprisingly sweet because she scared me at first, and Maddie Delph, the nicest girl ever. The four of us realized that our bus driver, Donna, was just as cool as us when she started giving skips. From the bus stop, I'd walk home, get a snack, and play guitar for hours. Music has always been a hobby of mine, but ever since I taught myself guitar, it became a passion. I love playing, because I played for myself, and it didn't matter if anyone liked the way I played or sang. I took piano lessons because my mom wanted me to. I played violin because my mom wanted me to. But guitar was something I picked up for myself, with inspiration from Shep. No one could judge me when I played guitar, and if they did, I didn't care. Homework happened somewhere between dinner and falling asleep. Freshman year was just so not stressful, because I thought I had all the time in the world. I could do homework, hang out with my friends, stay after school for sports games, and go to youth group in church. I went through the motions of church freshman year. My parents took me to church until I could drive and make the decision to go by myself. I went to chapel because I had to, and if I was missing, Senior Miller, my advisor, would take notice and call me out on it later. My outlook on chapel was this: a period besides lunch when no one could force you to think and do work. You didn't have to pay attention during chapel, so why not just go and sit for half an hour? Every once in a while, there was an amazing chapel where everyone would talk about it for the rest of the day because it was so powerful or funny. Nothing pushed my faith or challenged me in chapel or at school this year at all. I was hearing the same things I've always heard. The best advice I got, though, was in Mr. Durson's Bible class. In order to be a better Christian and person in general, you had to make mistakes along the way and learn from them. That's what I focused on freshman year, learning from mistakes and building a foundation off that. Thank goodness that was my focus, because sophomore year had a lot of mistakes and I had a lot to learn from. We weren't known as the new class anymore, but we weren't taken too seriously yet. My academics became serious, though. Doing homework is just something that happens naturally for me. There's no excuse not to get it done the next day. However, the homework amounts and difficulty increased dramatically this year. I was caught off guard because I was expecting school to get harder junior year, not this year. Chemistry was the killer. I've never had so much homework due for one class in a single night before. It was so stressful, but I enjoyed Mrs. Adams' bubbliness and how she'd do little cheers when the entire class did an assignment. Math was no longer my favorite subject. Geometry was not matching shapes with their names or picking up a shape block and sticking it in the correct bowl like the fun toys at the doctor's office. No. This was shapes and numbers, and I realized I only like numbers. I could have slacked off from classes that challenged me, but maintaining good grades was my main focus, even though I slowly died of homework each night. I'm glad I had geometry and chemistry because this was when I realized I had a strong work ethic. I could try my hardest and succeed if I wanted to. My work ethic comes from my mother as well. I've never seen anyone work as hard as she does. I figured, well, if I try my hardest and still don't succeed, at least I tried my hardest. I could always get away from stressful schoolwork, though, with my friends. My friends remained the same this year, all but one. I lost one of my closest friends sophomore year, and things changed after this, eventually for the better. Through the loss, I found myself. I realized who the people I wanted to be with were, the people who saw the good side of me and wanted what's best for me. The saying, as one door closes, another opens, could not have been more perfect for this year, except for a lot of doors opened, not just one. I got closer with my family as well. I quickly learned that when someone who cares about you sees you hurt, they will go at all lengths to make sure you are okay until you heal. I especially got closer with my brother, Nick. I can't believe how nice he is to me sometimes when I act like a bratty little sister. I remember the night I was crushed by one of my crushes. He let me sleep in his bed as I cried pathetically and got tears all over his pillow. I owe a lot of my strong and fun personality and my humor to him. I learned difficult times are good after all. They may stink and it's not what you wanted at all, but it's the outcome that matters. Through difficult times I got pushed to God, but in unexpected ways. Chapel 3 times a week was starting to get annoying. I didn't do anything in it except math, homework, sleep, or serve like the speaker. Hearing of religion, being told to go to church, doing service over and over again started to annoy me. I was frustrated that everyone was saying the same thing to me about religion. It was always, God is the only answer because he made my life perfect. Well, okay, that's nice, but not everyone has the same God experience. Sophomore year Bible with Mr. Bush was the perfect escape. I felt I had no room to think and explore religion and God, but in Bible class, I had that opportunity. I needed to think outside the box of Christianity. Being apart from ideas I've known since I was born made me want to come back and understand them better so I could apply them to my life. I had a new perspective to look from and was able to grow in my way and habits of religion. I'm thankful for the exposure to other religions and anything outside of Christian beliefs, but I still didn't know what I believed at this point. With all this uncertainty in the future and change happening, I wanted at least one good thing to happen during sophomore year, and it did. I found out I made touring choir along with a lot of my closest friends like Caleb Paquin, Lauren Scott, and Monica Rapp. I was with Monica and Lauren when we read the list together. Our biggest worry was that none of us made it, only one of us made it, or only one of us didn't make it. Either of those situations would have been sufficiently awkward, and the only choice situation would be that all of us made it. We scanned the list looking for only 3 specific names, ours, and they were there. We made touring choir. Next thing you know, we were running up and down the cafeteria screaming like fools. Our head chef at the time, Bob, came out wondering what was going on. That moment was when I was ready to move on from sophomore year into junior year. Sophomore year was the end of various things, some good, like geometry and chemistry homework, and some that seemed bad at first, but eventually worked out for the best in the end. All I can say was things happened for a reason, and that reason was good. Summer was here, and I had the best plans. 2 mission trips. My youth group went to Chicago with Dort and then Guatemala with Agros International. Chicago was an adventure. I had the best times with Jess Haltman, Amanda, Mary, Russ, Jason, and Scott. We did a lot of service that trip, and my eyes were open to homelessness in cities. We did a simulation where we only had $5, and we had to try and get a meal to feed like the 4 or 6 of us in the group. That was an eye-opener. Guatemala was the next stop, and it changed my life. I went with 2 of my best friends, Haley Coons and Jess. The experience was unreal. Everything I saw, tasted, felt, smelled was brand new. The people at the village we stayed at taught me a lot. They had so much love with no material things, and I was so unhappy with my bed, house, and food, and everything given to me. I remember how every night you could see the stars, and when I looked up, I felt so small and unimportant, and all I could think was, why am I so blessed when people who are just like me have to live in poor conditions? I didn't want to leave, but I had an amazing time with the Bombs and with Tim Moyer, the photographer. I also got a job around this time at like a supermarket, and I met a lot of amazing people like Tammy and Christian and Ethan. Balancing this was hard because I had school, and then I had to come home and do homework, but then I had to go to my job, and I just didn't want to do any of it. But I learned I learned time and money management from this, and then I kept working in the summer, and then summer ended. I had to get back into school mode and remember how to use a pencil and stuff like that. Junior year, I think things would fall into place for the best, and I was able to learn to accept what may come my way. I felt I found my right fit this year. Being comfortable with myself allowed me to branch out a lot. I met 2 of my new best friends in Mr. Moyer's 2nd period soccer class. At first, I was not excited for soccer. I didn't even sign up for it, and thought it was a huge waste of time. Sports in general are not my thing. My hand-eye coordination is nowhere to be found, and I can trip on flat surfaces almost too easily. At first, I didn't have any close friends in this class. As I went to get my gym locker, I heard a, "Hi!" I was caught off guard because I didn't know anyone well enough to just start talking. I turned around, and it was Lauren Halverson. She was smiling like she always does. Along her side was Carrie Bates, 2 totally new people that I'd never talked to before. I'm not sure why, but Lauren, Carrie, and I clicked so well in this class. We had similar humor, style, mindsets, and there was never a moment where we didn't have something to talk about. I guess something good came from soccer in the end, because I began sitting with Lauren, Carrie, Jess, and Olivia Bradford at lunch, and it was such a good change. I'm glad I met them, and I wish I knew them sooner. I was totally intimidated to just barge in on their table, however. It was always the 4 of them, and I didn't want to be the 5th wheel, but they were also sweet and accepting towards me, and I'm glad I shared my last 2 years at Doc with them. I love you guys. The new quarter rolled along, and I finally had social issues. I've heard this class could either be awesome or miserable, and it all depended on the people in it. I walked in the first day and saw Lauren Hobson. Thank goodness, I had a friend. Now all I had to do was get through giving 2 speeches and researching my topic, the death penalty. Then we were off to DC. I remember one night on this trip, we had to sit around the couches and listen to 3 homeless people share their stories with us. This was a great experience, but I was so tired I fell asleep. This wouldn't have been a problem if I could keep quiet while I slept. Apparently, I was breathing heavily. I refused to believe I was snoring. And then I'm told I made a high-pitched squeaky noise during the second lead speech. I woke up to Cody, Karoff, and Lauren cracking up, and the entire class looking at me laughing as well. I didn't know what happened, but I just ended up laughing too from hearing Cody crack up. And when our class got back from the trip, a lot of people asked me about that. Aside from being embarrassed, the class was great. I learned a lot from volunteering at the soup kitchen, going to DC, and hearing everyone's speeches on social issue topics such as abortion. Again, my eyes were open on the trip to homelessness around the cities. I didn't realize it could happen to anyone so easily. Another class I grew to like was AP Spanish. I'm good at Spanish, but this was still challenging. I dreaded walking there every morning with Monica Rock and Lauren Scott. All I did was pathetically pretend that I understood what Senior Miller was saying to me. I enjoyed him more as my advisor because he speaks in English when he advises me. Nothing could compare, however, to Touring Fire. After I read the list of who made it, I immediately realized I had to wait a whole semester before Touring Fire even started. This was brutal, but so worth it. I had the biggest passion for this class because everything about it was perfect. The music was great, and all the juniors were so close, we were all like best friends, and the seniors were fun to be around. The class was a safe haven for me. I could feel God working in the music room every day while I practiced, and especially at church when we sang, every Sunday. I had multiple God experiences junior year where I could feel him working in my life and by my side. One of my best friends, Haley, and I got into a ridiculous fight. All of a sudden, my best friend wasn't there anymore. I couldn't help feel it was my fault, and I hated myself for it. One night after months of not talking, we were both at a concert at our church. The singers had this moment of meditation where anyone who wanted to could go up to a youth advisor and let out all their burdens. I remember seeing Haley walk up to one of our favorite advisors, Mary. She was crying, and I was hurt. Mary then called me up, so I walked. I could feel everyone's eyes on my back, and when I reached Haley, we both started crying. Through my tears, I apologized, and she said, I forgive you, and I love you. That was when I felt God's mercy and forgiveness for the first time through another person. I didn't deserve to be forgiven, but I was. When I went back to my seat, my friend Ian held my hand and Jess held me. I hate not being able to see or feel God, but I did that night, through others. Even though I may have to deal with ridiculous things that push me beyond breaking point, He put the most amazing and loving people in my life to help me through. I used to think I couldn't put my trust in God because I felt He never handled my situation right. Certain lyrics based on Brother Teresa's words in a song we sang junior year of Touring Fire changed that. It was called Prayer. The first lines were, help me, and Mr. Durstein has imagined we were in the ocean, cast away in roaring waves, trying to stay above the surface. All we could do was cry out to God. I took these lyrics and Mr. Durstein's image to heart. I was going halfway with my religion, and that is impossible. I was looking at it all wrong. I can't ask for dreams and wishes to come true, and I can't change what has happened or what has been given to me. I have to make the best of it. When I was impatient and frustrated, I thought it was God trying to annoy me. No, He was giving me an opportunity to test my patience and faith in Him. I learned I can't understand God fully if I only give Him a part of me to work with. At this point, I felt like I understood a lot in my life. Things were becoming brighter and I was happier. One thing was bringing me fear though, my permit test. Aside from crying at the DMV while taking my test, I got my permit. I was so happy because I'm the second youngest in the grade and everyone pretty much had their licenses by now and a social life. I felt like I had a life by this point because my mom was tired of driving me around to friends' houses and I wasn't getting around. It didn't matter now though because I could drive as long as a 21-year-old was with me. I had many more exciting things to look forward to besides getting out on the road. One of them was touring fire going to Puerto Rico. I'm so lucky to have been able to go to Puerto Rico with the group of people I went with. This was such a good time in my life because I had 3 of my favorite things around at all times: my friends, music, and the beach. I also love to travel, so it was a great experience. We also sang at Carnegie Hall in New York after that, which is another opportunity that not many 16-year-olds get to have. Junior year was quickly wrapping up with Touring Fire doing their last concerts, banquet, shout out to Troy Haltzman, finals, and the seniors leaving. This was when it hit me. Next year, I would be a senior. I would be the one leaving. I had to start thinking about colleges. I wasn't ready for my high school life to close. With this being said, I moved slowly through senior year. I wanted to cherish every moment I had in these buildings with these classmates and teachers. And as hard as I tried to slow time down and keep my pace at a crawl, I quickly realized time waits for no one and change is inevitable. I knew this time would come, but I forgot that it would be a journey. When I think of becoming an adult, I just think of going to bed as a teenager and then waking up old with responsibilities. I wasn't prepared for an actual transition. The year started off amazingly. I got back on the volleyball fields in sophomore year and was the only other senior along with my best friend, Jess Halton. Volleyball was great, but once classes began, I was overwhelmed. I heard senior year can be easy or tough, depending on the classes you take. I had a good mixture where I took classes like economics and advanced physical fitness, wondering why in the world I had to waste my time, and classes that were extremely challenging like physics, AP language and composition, and advanced math. The first semester was fine. I still cared about doing well and wanted to maintain my spotless GPA. Since I didn't apply to any colleges yet, senioritis didn't hit me for a long while. Speaking of applying to colleges, I didn't. For the longest time too. I had bigger things to worry about like physics and advanced math. I didn't pick up on advanced math easily and I still don't, but I love math for the solid reason that it always makes sense in the end and everything we learned in pre-calc fits together. Numbers are just a universal language. Physics was extremely hard at first, but I began to really love it as it clicked more in my brain. I appreciated the teachers like Mrs. McTavish, Mr. Yoder, and Ms. Clemmer, who all cared about the students, not just as students, but as people. Mr. Yoder made me feel comfortable about asking questions and sitting after school many times for my help. Ms. Clemmer really made sure that all of the students understood what was happening, and Mrs. McTavish just has the biggest heart. I finally realized that teachers aren't out to fail you, but they can be your friends too. My friends this year were great. My lunch table, Jess, Liv, Lauren, and Carrie got me through the day no matter what, and always made me feel calm during my most stressful days. I also made a lot of random friends, but really close relationships, who I'm glad I got to know, like Robbie Johnson, Jonas Murphy, Sean Lawrence, and Brie Roselli. I quickly realized the only reason my grades were suffering was not because I was a senior, but because I got my license this year. The best thing about this year was getting my car, Lola. She's the greatest gift my parents ever gave me besides life. I was always out and I didn't know how to manage my time between friends and homework. Instead of studying, I'd go to Jess's house to go swimming. When I made my college decision and finalized things, I became even less caring about school, but I kept my grades up well and learned to prioritize and not procrastinate. I also began appreciating everything I had this year, knowing that I wouldn't have them next year. Teachers, friends, staff supportive and religious atmosphere. Mr. Hertzler's Bible class was the best, not only because he would scream out of nowhere, but because he gave us an environment to say what we wanted without being judged. This year, I learned that I have my own beliefs and people have their beliefs, and this didn't make a person better than the other. Doc has a lot of students from a lot of different places where you're exposed to things you may not be used to. I got a lot of practice with being accepting towards people who had different views than me. The senior retreat was kind of lame, but I'm glad I got and talked to a lot of my classmates there. Just before retreat was a senior experience. My youth advisors and my parents and my friends and everyone in here actually should probably know that I'm very good at waiting until the last minute to do things or finalize stuff. So when I got to shadow Dr. Alderfer, a cardiologist at Alderfer and Travis Cardiology, for senior experience, I was lucky because it was such late notice. When people asked me what I wanted to do, I'd say, oh, I want to be in the medical field. And then they'd ask me which branch of it, and I'd say, I don't know, the medical part. I honestly had no idea there were even branches until I shadowed a cardiologist. Dr. Alderfer hooked me up with the opportunity to view open heart surgery at Doylestown Hospital under Dr. Alter. I prepped myself for the experience by watching a YouTube video of open heart surgery. That didn't help. When I got in the room, I was about to pass out. There was a beating heart open right in front of me, and I could smell it. I watched the entire process in amazement from the stopping heartbeat, replacing the damaged valve, restarting the heart, and closing the chest cavity. It was more than a 3-hour-long process, but too interesting to even notice what time it was. This made me want to pursue cardiology after high school, and it feels reassuring to know what I may want to do with the rest of my life. Today, I stand before you terrified, excited, and in anticipation. I'm ready to get out there, but still hesitant, for I will have to learn a new life all over again. High school is all I know. I'm glad I had all the opportunities given to me the past 4 years: touring choir, volleyball, orchestra, and musicals. I'm sad to be leaving my friends, but I'm excited to continue my studies in pre-med at Penn State University Park next year. I want to thank my friends, Jess, Lauren, Liv, and Carrie, for always guiding me through difficult times. I want to thank my teachers, my youth pastors, advisors, and my church for teaching me more than I could have ever learned anywhere else. I want to thank my parents for trusting me when I went astray, dealing with me at my worst, and never giving up on me when I gave up on myself. To my dad, for always being gentle and kind when I came home late. And to my mom for always pushing me because she knew I was worth more than that. I want to thank my brothers, Shep and Nick, for loving me for 17 years. They are my best friends and understand me more than anyone ever could. I'm glad to have each of you in my life and that I got to experience high school with you at this beautiful school. Thank you, everyone.